Hello! I wanted to do a single review video, and that is a rare occurrence for me because it is very rare that I love a book so much that I want to just talk about that for an entire video. But today I'm going to, because I recently read a book which is my favourite of the year so far. I am talking about Tess of the Road by Rachel Hartman, which is the third in her series. It's set in the same world as her previous two books, Seraphina and Shadowscale, but actually follows a different character, Seraphina's younger half-sister, who is completely human, Tess. So I loved Seraphina because of the world building. The setting is just so richly drawn, the fantasy city that she lives in, the dragons, the Quiggertol, which are these sort of mini dragons. They're flightless dragons. They're like a subspecies of dragon. That's the way they're described in the book, but they are very different. They have some similarities with humans and some similarities with dragons, and then some quirks that are completely their own. Unlike dragons, they do have emotions in their natural form. Unlike dragons, they don't shapeshift. Unlike dragons, they don't fly. But they do have an amazing ability to build devices. Essentially, they are the electricians of the setting. They can make communication devices and other gadgets, and they're just kind of, they've been used by both dragons and more recently mankind. Another thing I really like about the setting is the religion. The land of Gared, which is Seraphina and Tess's home, has a system of saints on top of old pagan gods. So a couple of hundred years ago, before the start of Seraphina, these saints with powers walked the land, and they all had their own different philosophies. They didn't always agree with each other, and people subscribed to the ideas of certain ones, and somehow they all coexist, despite the fact they have often very different points of view and thoughts on moral regulation. And it's just fascinating how these people kind of put up with these ideas coexisting. There's certainly some saints that are more popular than others, some that get brushed to the side and ignored, some that have been discredited because philosophers that came after them just didn't want to include their ideas and wanted to exclude them, or because they had a falling out with the other saints while they were alive, and so they kind of got blacklisted and burned out of history. And it's the religion of the setting that really takes the lead in Tess of the Road. So as a background on Seraphina, Seraphina herself is a half-dragon, an Itiosari, and she kind of comes to terms with this over the course of her books, and she has these adventures, but over the course of her story it comes out and it's made public that she's half dragon, that her father married a dragon, which is illegal, and he loses his job, and his wife, who isn't Seraphina's mother because Seraphina's mother died in childbirth, his new wife, Seraphina's stepmother, didn't know that Seraphina's mother was a dragon until quite late on in their relationship, when Seraphina started showing symptoms of her half-dragon status, and he just couldn't hide it from her anymore. And so Seraphina's half-sisters, Jen and Tess, have kind of grown up under the shadow of this, and with their mother being very, very angry with their father and really holding a grudge against him. And she's sort of taken solace in religion, which has had unfortunately quite a negative effect on their upbringing and on the way Tess sees herself and on the world. And basically something really bad has happened to her, and I can't really talk about it because the book doesn't go into the full details of it till quite late on, as it becomes something that naturally surfaces in Tess's mind. But she has undergone some really sad things and has judged herself really horribly for it. So Tess of the Road doesn't have the politics and the drama of Seraphina. It's quite simple in terms of plot. It's essentially about a woman who walks down a road, explores some caves on this quest to find this mysterious creature which her childhood friend Pafka, a Quiggertol, has told her about. He becomes her travelling companion, technically Co becomes her travelling companion because Quiggertol can change sex over the course of their life back and forth several times. I'm guessing it's inspired by seahorses, but it's a really interesting detail because dragons don't do this. It's another way in which they differ from dragons. Dragons can shapeshift into humans, but they don't really think of sex and gender in the same way, whereas Quiggertol do seem to have a binary that they switch between, although that doesn't change who they are as not people, I guess. People. How do you describe a sentient creature that isn't a human in a short form? But anyway, so Tess is on this sort of long, slow quest, which is not so much about her journey, but about not so much about her physical journey, I should say, but more about her emotional journey and her mental journey, and how she learns to come to terms with her upbringing, really, and come to terms with the society she's brought up with and she's been brought up in and all its flaws, and to learn to accept herself. And it's just so beautifully done, and it flows so naturally. It's a very slow-paced book, but I just thought it was perfect. The emotions in it just seemed so true, and every revelation and every decision and every kind of development in Tess's psyche and how she sees herself in the world just flowed so perfectly. It never seemed rushed or unnatural. She didn't, oh my god, suddenly have a big shocking change of heart or anything. Everything took a while to happen. You know, sometimes she'd have a realization, but she wouldn't necessarily process it straight away. It was more naturalistic than that. It took her a while to come to terms with some ideas, and it was just so beautiful. I really, really loved it. I just think that it's an incredible, incredible book, and I don't know who to recommend it to, basically. I think that you really do have to read the previous two books of the series to understand the setting and the background and where Tess is coming from, because her story is really kind of a other side of the story, you know, what's happened as a result of Seraphina getting to come to terms with her identity and be public about it. You know, the negative effect that it's had on the rest of her family is really interesting, because obviously you can't begrudge Seraphina for her development and for her ability to feel more comfortable in her skin, but at the same time you do learn to feel very sorry for what it's done to Tess and Shen, and obviously not to blame them, but to blame their upbringing and the strictures of Goretti society. It's just a fascinating, beautiful book, and it says so much, and I don't think I can talk about it anymore, or I won't have left anything for you to discover when you pick it up for yourself. But I really do suggest you do, obviously after reading Seraphina and Shadow Scale, so you know what's going on. If you have read those books and you're kind of off put by the slow pace of Tess, I would encourage you to pick it up, or perhaps to listen to the audiobook, so that you basically get to really enjoy the narrator, learn how all these words are pronounced correctly, but also so that you can listen to it in more bite-sized pieces. I think it's a book that you could really enjoy if you read it over a very long period of time, so the audiobook might be a worthwhile investment for you. In that case, you could listen to it, you know, over a series of months in little pieces, so that you don't get overwhelmed by how slow-paced it is. I listened to it quite quickly over the course of this month, but that's because I fell in love with it. I think it is a book that you will have to persevere with for a lot of people, because of the slow pace. But yeah, like I say, you listen to it in sort of bite-sized chunks, I think you'll get along with it much better. And just don't expect it to be like Seraphina and Shadow Scale, because it's not. It is set in the same world, and you do get to hear more about happens to Seraphina next. Can't talk about that without massively spoiling the ending of Shadow Scale. But yeah, I believe that you will fall in love with Tess, because I have fallen in love with Tess, and I can't wait to see where she goes next. So thank you very much for watching. Please let me know in the comments if you've read this book and what you thought of it, because I would love to discuss it. So yeah, thank you for watching. Buy this book. You'll see me again soon. Bye.